This is Sarah Poff, the multimedia storyteller. I'm just here to tell you another story. Now, you know I like to tell you stories. Painting, I like to do a 1 hour painting of acrylics on a canvas board usually. So this is my special spot that we're going to be painting about. And get ready because I am so ready to visit my special spot this fall. So I like to paint on the canvas board. I just buy the cheap ones, is what I do. And people ask me about what kind of brushes I use. Oh, these. I have a whole bunch of brushes, and I just kind of pick as I go. I don't go with any certain type or certain way of doing that. I use just the great old big huge ones of the different colors, red, yellow, blue, and white and black. Now, sometimes I do, because I use a lot of green, a lot of brown, I'll go ahead and buy those colors too. But I buy that great old big one. And let's see, I have a little water here. I don't put a lot of water because I want to be able to keep this as dry as possible, because our goal is to get this done in 1 hour. So those are some of the criterion that we have to get this painting going. So let me get my canvas board. I'm so glad some of those places, and I forgot to unwrap it here, unwrap it real quick. So glad that there are all those places that you can buy these. Now, I do have at home, I've been known to paint on wood. I've been known to paint on a thicker cardboard or cardstock. There's all kinds of things you can paint on with acrylic. You could also do it with tempera paint. You know, you could do a painting like this with your watercolor. Techniques are a little bit different, but you could still do some of the same kind of things. All right, so we want to start by getting that tint on there. We want to get the tint. I think I'm just going to kind of draw it with pencil here. So I'm going to draw a V shape, upside down V, should I say. I'm going to draw an upside down V. I'm going to slant that line just a little bit. I'm going to go something like that. I'm not going to worry about much more on it because I just want to be able to do the sky behind it right now, and then start to paint some of it in just a minute. So we're going to do the landscape line here. Just real quick like that. Then I'm going to start with my sky, and then I'll add my trees and all in. And you see I kind of went up a little bit with that. Okay. We want a bigger brush because I want this to go pretty fast. So I want to be able to do that. So I have me some blue and some white here. So I'm going to start with my white. And then I'm going to just barely dip into that blue. And I want it to be a little bit lighter in color. You know, like this is the focus of my favorite spot, is right in this area right here. I might also want to think about that sliver of a moon, and you could put whatever kind of moon you want there, but sliver of a moon is kind of fun. And then I'm going to do these strokes down. I dipped it in a little bit of water. Going to get a little more white picked up there, because it's like there's somehow the light's just focusing on our favorite spot here. Come over a little bit here within that outer side of the crescent moon. Then I'm going to just gradually keep getting darker. Just going to draw some darker blue lines there. Add some more of that white in. But you definitely want to find a pretty good sized brush to do this. Even a small household brush works on something like this. So I like seeing the colors kind of blend together. And we don't have to go all the way down to that line because we are going to put those pine trees in there. And then the trunk of some deciduous trees. But I want to get it enough that it's not a problem if we see some of the sky through it. So the main thing I'm doing is a fairly big brush, and then I'm loading in. I do use my Corel plates, and then I can pop this on top and tape it, and the paint will last a little while that way, because I try really hard not to waste paint. Why waste good paint? That's what I think about. Why waste good paint? Do you have a favorite spot you go out and camp? Or maybe it's a cabin in the woods that you go every year to. We go to Merrimack, and we have a special spot there, Merrimack State Park. And, you know, we meet up with friends, and we have special memories. We've been doing it for 40 years now. It's just fun to have a special spot where you meet up with family and friends, or maybe family that feel like friends after all the years. Those kind of places hold many memories. Okay. Now, one thing I like to do is I like to, when it's still a little wet, because you see there's the sparkly area right above the tint, and so I have just a touch of glitter. Glitter is something that's kind of nice if you do just a little bit, but it's so easy to get too much. So I don't like to take and put glue on it. I just kind of take it when the paint is wet, and then later on I'll shake that off. But I wanted to get that on there while the paint was wet. All right, now let's paint the green of those trees. Maybe I want to come down with this blue just a little more, and we'll even that line up maybe. You know, I try to make them similar, but I don't always make these paintings exactly like the one before. They're a gathering of ideas. All right. So let's see. Now with the green here, because these trees are in the background, the pine trees are in the background, I want you to add in, you know, you can add in some black onto that green if you want to kind of tone it down, make it into a shade a little darker, because we don't want that to be something that we see as much. You know, we want it to just be in the background. Looking for the brush, and I always look at them, what I think might be the right size to do that, and then I just kind of flip my finger across it. So what I'm going to do is I've mixed some, this has got some black in it, so I'm going to mix the two greens together here. And then I'm going to start just kind of the stem up of the tree. kind of like what would be in the middle of the trunk. But now we're not going to see the trunk on these kind because they're deciduous, so you don't see it as much, and especially with the background there. So we're going to, then we're going to do like this. We're just going to start adding in. We're trying to vary some of the lighter green, some of the darker green. So I'm just kind of feathering it up. Oh, see, that when you add too much water, that's exactly what happens. I thought I needed it. I'm going to leave that spot and let it dry a little bit before I go back on it. I'm going to start another tree because I want to fill up this area, and then I will put the tree trunks of the deciduous trees on top of that. So I'm using some of the darker green, some of the lighter green. Still going back and forth with a kind of a Y shape here. Maybe sometimes it's good for you all to see me do that so that you know what I'm talking about when I say that it sometimes just goes wrong if you get too much water on it. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to put a couple more here. Now sometimes what I do is I rest this part of my hand or my fingers there. If I'm trying to get it a little straighter. Another trick is to take this paintbrush and just kind of roll it around like that. And you want to vary the shape. See, it's still not dry there. Kind of nice to see just a little bit of blue behind it. Just kind of paint, 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 paint. I sure do like to paint. Paint, 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 paint. I sure do like to paint. Like to be in a room filled with people painting. If you want to share the location, or maybe not the location, because maybe that's a private part of your place, but maybe it's in a state park or a certain area of the country that you enjoy going to with your family or friends. If you'd like to share that, it's kind of fun sometimes when you're doing paintings like this online to share back and forth with each other. Okay, I'm going to go to the other side and do the same thing with the trees. And some of those trees are going to be on the deciduous trees, their trunk's going to be on top. But we still want enough of the coloring there that we'll be able to see it behind. Okay. Sometimes I need to like shore my brush up and I just kind of roll it around like this. I think I'm going to make this one a little wider so it's right up against the tent. A little wider, a little taller. Just kind of thinking about what that design's going to look like. So just kind of going through here. Oh, I put it in water. I think I better wipe it off on my plate first because of what happened last time when I did that. Did you know that Mid-Continent Library, they have all kinds of art classes that they've been putting on online. They've got a bunch on their YouTube channel and a bunch on the Facebook page. So if you want to learn about art, even kinds I don't do, just go check it out. Art is such a fun pastime to do. I just think there's a sense of accomplishment that you have when you're able to put together a painting, put together a sculpture, put together a drawing, a weaving, all different kinds of arts. I'm so glad those are readily available to us these days. Okay, let's just take it down a little more. Okay. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get out my hairdryer and blow dry what we have so far. Oh, you know what? Before I do that, I think I'm going to paint white here because they might take us a couple of coats to get that moon like we want it. If I can get one coat on there now, that might help it. Here we go. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to paint the base out in front of here. It makes me think that this is a reflection of the fire, maybe a little bit of sun from a different direction. And so that's kind of where we are. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this part right here and get it kind of dry and then put the trees on top. All right, so we have several different colors we want to swirl into that. I'm going to get a fairly good sized brush here. I'm always like searching through, see how my brushes are like this. Which one do I want this time? Let's try this one. All right, so I'm going to do some brown. I'm going to add a little yellow. And I don't usually, a lot of times I don't buy orange, so I'm just going to kind of mix the yellow together with the red and make that. And I'm going to just keep going up on the sides, kind of overlapping it some. And I'm going to want a different size brush for up here against the tent. I'm trying to make this look like it goes sideways. You know, you can do like this, but then bring it back across so that it looks like it's part of that landscape. Okay, so I'm going to kind of get it filled in with the brown little orangey in there. More of the orange is going to be here in the middle though. But if you're not careful, you know what you'll do is you'll get it muddied. That's a really easy thing to have happen. So you might want to have some paper towels if that happens and just kind of pull back off some of that paint. And then I think I'll just even switch brushes. That way I can put a little more of the yellow and the red for the orange. And you're trying to blend them together, so that also makes it a little bit harder to keep the colors how you want it. Just kind of blended a little more yellow in there. Sometimes the yellow gets lost in the midst. Okay, then I want to come over to this side and make sure I get this while I've got those colors going. And I want to make sure I get up there good where I've got the ground all covered up. That ground has a little more red than this side. We're going to have some trees there too, so I think we'll be all right with that. Now what I want to do here on the tent, while I've got this orange going, I'm going to go ahead and mix up orange on my plate to make sure I can get the orange I want. So in my imagination, they have a nice little fire going in there, lights. Maybe it's like one of those ones that you have the gas tank on. It's a little cool. And so that kind of lights up. Plus there's always a few flashlights, especially if there's children around. There's always a few of the little children that are someone who's using their flashlights in there. I used to have a lot of fun. My parents weren't much of a campers, especially not tent campers, but Girl Scouts, we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun in those teepees and out in around the campsites, the tents that we slept in. We didn't really sleep in a teepee, but we had some around that we got to visit and look at and learn about the Native Americans. Okay, so I'm gonna, let's see, which brush do I use? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. That one's got a lot of red in it. We kind of want some red and brown there. Now what I did on my tent is I gave it its basic color with the acrylic. And then I came back and I added some line and definition with some Sharpies. You could do that, or you could also do some a smaller paintbrush later in. Remember, we're trying to do this in about an hour. So some of the smaller details like that, we just basically get the bigger items in. You're welcome to add those. But I'm trying to get you a painting in an hour that looks put together. Okay. So let's see, I'm going to get a different brush. I'm one of those who gets multiple brushes and instead of time spending rinsing them out. Get a smaller brush still. All right. You'll see one little problem here with the sky. I need to take the tree over, I think. I don't think I want to do the blue. I think the blue will be too hard to get in there, so I'm going to go back with this green. Right in there. Okay. Same thing right there. Okay. Lay my brushes down. And I'm going to get the blow dryer back out.
All right, how much time do you think you got?
I would think it's going to take me 30. It's going to take me till that 20 after time. I'd say I need 30 more minutes.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and switch out.
Okay.
Here. Or actually, it might just plug in. This way.
All right, so now we're going to, I'm going to flip this back around where I have it like I usually do. I'm looking at the difference between these two. One thing is I have not defined it with the Sharpies, which will come later. But I also think I did the same thing I did when I was originally doing this painting, and that is I made this tint a little too large. A little too large. And so what I want to do is I want to bring a line in here, and I'm going to bring this tree over just a little bit. This is one of them that I had to work to get it like I wanted. You know, I had to kind of massage it some. Sometimes those things happen when you're painting. So I'm going to maybe like, my tint's going to like be like about like that. Let's see if I can. All right. So I want that green. So I want this to be, the trees to be behind there, so I'm just going to do it like that. And there's going to be those deciduous trees on top. And this area over here is just a little bit darker. It's a little bit further away from us. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to make I guess I need to do a little bit more blow dry. It's all right to paint it in that way, but you've got to go back in there and change it, or it just doesn't look like it works right. Okay. Now, I'm going to get a wider brush, and I'm going to start working on the deciduous trees, the ones with leaves. Okay. So I want them to be down here by the tent. By the tent. Pulling them all the way and pull them in front. I'm going to do the same thing here. By the tent and all the way up. So I like it because we have the different tiers of how the forest looks. Okay, and then I want to pull some out. I'm making kind of a V shape here at the bottom for some of those roots. Your choice how big you want those trees to be as far as the width across for the trunk. They look like to me some of those tall trees that you have in the forested area that have gotten so tall that they're reaching out for the sun. And I just made them have the bigger, just we can see the bigger limbs, and then we'll put some leaves on those after a bit. Because we don't want limbs down there because they're trying to stretch way up, like in the top part of the forested area. All right. Now, I want to put a little more on my white there. I think I'll go ahead and like pull this lighter blue in. Might even make that just a teeny bit darker in there, so that our moon shows out nice. I'm going really, well, sometimes I like to chatter while I'm doing this, and sometimes it's harder. This might be one of those harder times. Okay. All right, let's get that blow dryer going. Now, we could spend time trying to make these trees look like they're rounded. You can see I added a little white there, I added a little black. We're going to go for these two trees we'll do a little bit with, and then we're going to go for those lights, because I think that's the next most important thing to get in, because you could always do this a little bit later. I did it with a Sharpie. I did it with a white colored pencil there. You can do it with paintbrush if you wanted. Just some choices that you have. All right. So on the trees, I just took and kind of outlined them. Just kind of, I was just a bit sporadic with it because I want it to look like the spots that might be reflecting of light. And what I did with them is I actually painted over a little bit after I did this, so that it wasn't quite so bold. Okay. All right, let's see about this. Now you want to find you a nice little brush that you can go across to make those lights. So we're going to make them look like they go around the tree and then right into here too. And you want to, this is one of those times you might want a little bit of water with that paint, because it needs to flow across there. If you have a some kind of white marker, this might be a good time for it. Oh, you know what I was going to do though? I was going to put some brown on there, wasn't I? Yep, forgot that. Just to calm those black lines down just a bit, because they're just a little too bold for my taste. This is definitely one that when I was making it, I had to think a lot about. Might need just a tad more blue for that, some of those lights to show up right in this area. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to go across there with the lights. They should show up better now. So you want to find a brush that you think will allow you to make a line across, like that. A smaller one is better. And then I'm going to just kind of make a bold line across, and then go back and thicken it up. Just having to concentrate. And I have dipped this several times into the water. Just be careful when you dip it into the water that you don't get too much water, or that you try it out first. So I'm just painting slowly and carefully across there. Okay. Now I also have these that go down the tree. So I'm going to do a few of the lights that are wrapped around the tree. I think this time I'm only going to make 3 instead of 4. What a pretty sight this would be, to be out in the dark of the forest with some lights around and the moonlight shining down. It found a spot between the trees. Okay, then we'll go over here and do the same thing. And when I looked at this after the fact, I thought, maybe I got those lights too close together. So this time I'm going to try making them just a little further apart. So I'm using the tip of my paintbrush and just kind of mashing down with it like that. If you wanted it rounder, you might be able to find like a pencil eraser. You could try a swab. You'll just have to be careful with the swab that you check it as the fibers begin to pull out. Sometimes they'll pull out and you'll have to cut them off. I'd like to go here and just sit and leave my phone back at the back at the car and just sit and do nothing for a while. Just sit and, look at the fire, visit with some family or friends, just get away from it all. All the things that our days are crowded with. Just our spot. Like I said, I have the pleasure of doing that once a year with a whole group of friends. Actually, they're friends I met in college. Some people stay with you for your lifetime. So every year we just pick up where we did before, and it's just such a wonderful, wonderful feeling, wonderful time together. I bet you have some people like that you like to spend time with. All right. We're almost there. We almost got it done. The lights. We need a little bit more with the painting. So I've seen my pencil lines there, so I'm going to just go back in here and cover them again. And then I want to put a little bit of haze-like on it by just kind of rubbing my brush. I'm going to take another brush and I'm just going to kind of rub it sideways like this, like there's a little haze or mist in the land. It's really fun when you're out and about in a place like this and you come across some of those kind of things. Okay, that's probably good there. Now I'm going to use that same, so I'm dry brushing. I've got just a little bit of paint there. See, a little bit too much, so I'm going to just wipe some of that off. When I was doing this, I thought this might be reflections of some light from the sky. Maybe it's reflections from a fire that's nearby somewhere. Remember just a little bit, because we're dry brushing. Okay, I think I have time to get those trees finished up there, and a few leaves on them, and then we'll be about to the timeout, about to our hour slot. So I hope you enjoy doing these paintings, and I hope you will share that with the library staff. It takes a lot of their time and energy to bring these programs forward to you. And if you like my style, let them know. Let them know what types of programs you're looking for. We have a great system here at Mid-Continent. I still remember the first time I walked in to do a program after having been not in the libraries that much because my children had gotten older. I also was teaching school in Blue Springs, and I had, a big library source there, and so I just didn't come as much as I had when my kids were little. And I walked in and I found out all the fun programs they were doing and all the, just all the kinds of things that had changed since library, especially when you come from where I did, where the library had just one little building. That's what my library was, one little building. I really liked reading about history, and they had, for children, they had one little shelf. That's all they had. And I walked into Mid-Continent and I went, oh my goodness, this is a candy store with books in it. This is a candy store with books. That was my very thought. It's like, wow. Sometimes I did have trouble getting them all read on time. My husband said, well, why don't you just check out this? And I was like, well, but I might lose them before the next time. This place is too big. But we do have this great library system. Okay, I want to go back in here. Probably want to get a different brush because I want to cover up a little bit of the black line. See, I want it to show, but I don't want it to show tons. Does that make sense to anybody? We want it to give some of that depth real quick, but we also don't want it to be overwhelming. Now what I do with my paintings is I set them out. I set mine on the piano because it's in a prominent place in the house, and I look at them and I go, oh, well, let me see, what could I do to make that a little better? How could I improve that painting? So that's the process I go through with doing it. I hope you have a place that you can hang up items like this. Maybe you have a place where you do some seasonal changes out, and maybe that would be, this would be a good one to put in there. Maybe you can change out along the way. Now what I'm doing now is I did the dark green and the light green. Just putting a few leaves up here. We're getting really close to the end. So I hope you've enjoyed our time together today and that you've learned how to put together a painting that would be about your spot. Maybe it's from childhood, maybe it's from now. Sometimes now I don't want to lay on the ground in a tent though. I like the convenience of a bed. Okay. Well, I believe that is a wrap on this painting. This is Sarah Poff, the multimedia storyteller, just telling a story and a painting at the same time. All right.